What is up? Welcome to this week's episode of the Lambgoat Vanflip podcast. Today I'm joined by South Carolina death metal frontman Karl Sanders for the band NILE. Welcome to the show, brother. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, sir. Glad to be here.
No, yeah, it's great to have you on the show today. Obviously, you guys got some stuff in the works, but most recently, you kind of you fell ill for a little bit and you missed your Hellfest performance. So I'm glad to see that you're up and running quite nicely.
Well, it's been about a month of recovery, but all's good. I looking forward to the next thing we got to do.
Yeah, you got, like I said, you had an album coming out, The Underworld Awaits Us All, and that's going to come out via Napalm Records August 23rd. So later this month. Technically, this will come out in August since we're in the last day of July. But you've also had a single come out, Chapter for Not Being Hung Upside Down on a Stake in the Underworld and Made to Eat Feces on All Four Apes. By the four apes. Sorry, not on all four.
I liked your version. That was pretty good.
That's quite a long one. That's quite a long title. Where did that even come up from?
Well, it's chapter 181 of the Book of the Dead. So I saw it and I was like, how is this not a metal song? This is a metal song waiting to be written. So I can't claim any genius there. I'm just representing.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's probably not been a song or a title yet because it's so long to print. And who knows, maybe back in the day of like having, physical media being predominant, that was too long to print for some people. So maybe that might be why. But it's a mouthful too. Jesus.
Well, there you go. It'll be fun during live shows. Just saying that thing to introduce the song. Be a lot of fun, and looking forward to some fan participation on that one. It'll be a blast.
Yeah, you guys, you might have to take a breather before you belt that one out.
Yeah, dude, like take a deep breath before you say that title.
Yeah, we'll see how that works out for you guys. Because you guys have a tour coming up. Speaking of live stuff too, you guys got a tour coming up at the start of next year. You and 6 Feet Under have got a little thing planned. That's gonna be pretty neat. You're starting off in the Southeast down here. You predominantly do you guys like to play the Southeast a lot since you guys are from South Carolina? Are you more familiar with it and audiences is better?
Nah, fuck that noise. We like to play anywhere that people are happy for us to play there. That's our only criteria. We're also in September. We're going all across Europe with Hideous Divinity. Then we're going to Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Thailand, Singapore, a few other places in there. So our fall time will be busy as well.
Yeah. I mean, you guys have been around for quite a couple of decades, so you guys are well known within the death metal community for not just here in the States, obviously, but all over the world. You stay pretty busy, it seems like. Is that why it took so long between the previous album and this album come out? A good 5 years?
Well, we had a pandemic that made things difficult. Our drummer, George, lives in Greece. So, that really threw a monkey wrench in things. Then, Brad and Brian got pregnant. They had kids, so that threw another monkey wrench into making the record. And we had touring commitments and member replacements. So, yeah, it was quite a stressful time trying to get our record done with all that going on.
How long does it kind of usually take you guys to crank an album out? Is it something that comes easy to you guys? Because again, you've been a band since the early 90s, so I don't know if it's just kind of like flows naturally for you, or do you still have to like work the muse type thing?
Yeah, we still got to work it. We don't take anything for granted. I think good songs happen when you take the time and energy and spend the hard work to make it a good song. Shit don't just magically fall out of the sky.
Yeah, no, I get that. What was some of the inspiration on this particular album? Whether it be musically or lyrically, whichever one you want to approach that from.
Well, a lot of the stuff that we write about comes from ancient Egyptian texts or ancient Sumerian texts or the History Channel or Like the song "Stele of Vultures" is about a broken down monument. It's about 4,000 years old. It's sitting in the Louvre right now. It's called the Stele of Vultures. Yeah, it was very inspiring.
Yeah. Do you guys? How did you fall into that like rabbit hole of just being wrapped up by that kind of historic, influence stuff? Like, because obviously the whole band is, centered around that. So you must have fallen in love with that early on in your life.
Well, yeah, but I take issue with the choice of the word rabbit hole. So I don't feel like we're stuck in any rabbit hole. We have a very nice niche that we've been exploring, but I wouldn't call it a rabbit hole because that implies that there's some sort of like, limitation that we place on ourselves. And I don't feel limited in any way. I'm never at a loss for song topics. If I what do I want to write today? Let's go to my bookshelf and pull out a book, which is like songwriting method number one. Just open a book and see what there is.
Nice. And musically, like, where does that come from for you guys? Is it like a group process, or is it one guy brings an idea, or is there a set person that creates the music for everything?
Well, usually the words come first, and then whoever's writing the music for that will make a demo, which goes around to the band members, and then everybody chips in from there. There's no song that survives the initial writing. Some of these songs go back and forth 10, 12 times before everybody's happy.
I'm sure there's a lot that's left on the cutting room floor technically then too.
Dude, there was so much on the cutting room floor this time that you could have made a couple movies out of it. Since we had more time to work on the record, that was more time to chop out sections of songs that, is this part helpful? And I like to err on the side of scissors, right? If the question is, do we chop this out or not chop this out? I will always vote for chop it out just because somebody asked the question. If somebody even asks a question, hey, do we actually need this part of the song? Dude, that's a sign to me that it's time to chop that shit out.
Yeah. And with you guys having such a long, fruitful career in death metal, like, is there anything that is new on this record that you guys haven't tried in your previous albums, or any kind of new influence, come through on this record?
Well, one could look at it and say this sounds in some ways like every other NILE album we've ever done.
It has to for a little bit. For a small part, it has to.
Yeah, but if you take the time to look under the hood, there's all kinds of new stuff in there. There's different time signatures, different chord changes, different harmonies, different modalities. There's a lot of stuff that's subtly different enough that it interested us enough to make a song out of it. So, there you go.
Yeah. How did you... I'm trying to touch base back with the rabbit hole comment, but it was more so about it was more so about your.
Don't get weirded out about it.
No.
It was more. I'm not taking offense at your use of the word.
No, I
was taking offense at the word itself, which is a different thing. I still love you, man.
I get you. Thank you. I appreciate it, Karl. I appreciate it. But where did you develop your love for that moment in time in history and that part of the world? Like, what spawned that love for it to where you had to like create a death metal band to kind of get that out?
Well, I was always interested in history from the time I was a little kid, watching movies with my dad. Like, he loved the epic movies, Ben-Hur, Sodom and Gomorrah, Land of the Pharaohs, Ten Commandments. So I was kind of interested from a young age. When I one day found myself in a band named NILE going, well, we got to write some songs. What are we going to write about? The answer seemed obvious to me.
Yeah, it was. And at the time that was kind of like, off the beaten path as far as like lyrical content for death metal is. So like, how was that kind of getting over that hump and kind of making people understand what the whole like product is that you're selling as the band?
Well, there were a few years back then, like from 93 to all the way up to 98, 99, where if you weren't a Cannibal Corpse or Suffocation clone, then people were like, what the fuck is this? In fact, most of the audiences from those first couple of years when we would play would be a bunch of people going, what is this? We got very used to it. Like the look of blank stares and gaping jaws, like going, what the fuck is this? So, okay, if you try to do something a little bit different, it's a kind of an uphill battle. But, we didn't care. We were, some guys from South Carolina who were unconcerned with whether or not the world accepted what we did. We were already pretty much decided, well, hey, likely no one will care what four guys from South Carolina are doing. So does it matter? Let's just do what we want and be happy.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That's a good approach to obviously to go with. But how long did it take for you guys to kind of start seeing some kind of like resemblance of not success, but just notoriety of the band?
I'd say when we did the Ramses Bringer of War demo, and we were selling shitloads of them in the underground, and we were like, well, this is pretty cool. And it didn't take long for a few smaller record labels to take notice and approach us and go, hey, we'd like to put out a record with you guys. What do you think? And I remember we had a band meeting where we were sifting through these label offers, and all of them were terrible. So it was like trying to go, which one of these is the lesser of all evils? Much like, what is that? The South Park episode where they got two candidates, and one is a giant douchebag and the other is a turd sandwich. Yeah. And the South Park guys are going, can't we have better choices? Right. It was kind of like that with us in our first record deals. Like, these are all terrible offers. Which one of these do we take?
And you kind of been on, you're currently with Napalm. Have you enjoyed working with them?
Yeah, they've been great so far.
Better than a turd sandwich and a douchebag, I would hope.
It's a different story, 25 years down the road. They treated us very well. They're happy to work with us and have been nothing but awesome since the day we started working with them. I got nothing but good things to say about Napalm.
And this is your first record with them, right? You were on Nuclear Blast, the last one?
Before that, we were with Nuclear, and before that, Relapse.
Interesting. Yeah, so you've been on some decently big labels. What caused the idea to leave Nuclear Blast and join Napalm? Was it just a timing thing, or just contract up?
Our contract was up, and they sold shop, to a larger corporate conglomerate, and a lot of the people working at that label left. So, we were like, let's give Napalm a try.
Yeah, they don't need to win you over anyway. They've had a pretty healthy discography and success themselves as well. I have to ask, because you're kind of like interested into like the Egyptian times and stuff like that. Does anyone ever ask you about like ancient aliens, or do you go down that quote unquote rabbit hole? Do you ever go down that kind of stuff?
Well, you must like rabbits.
I do like rabbit holes too.
My next door neighbors that live across the cul-de-sac, they have rabbits, and oftentimes the rabbits get out. Right. And they love to go sit in my front lawn for some reason. I think they like the shade there in the afternoon. But it drives my dog nuts. Right. If my dog smells the rabbits out front, man, it's on.
Yeah. That's how I knew to use that term. So it connects you and I together on a different level So we'll talk about this on the podcast. You know, this is all great stuff for the audience to find out about Karl being at home with the dogs and the
Carl being
rabbits.
at home. Yeah.
It is part of the whole gist of why I kind of do the podcast too, just to get those little nuggets out there. But
Dude, I like when I'm watching. When I'm listening to Conan do his podcasts, they go down some tangents, right? And that's where all the good stuff is. The unscripted area of adventure.
yeah, well, because you all, and again, you're doing like these all day today. I would assume you have a chunk of these one to one, back to back to back. And so I figure if I am a part of that, I at least want to spruce it up for the person I'm interviewing to make it not so monotonous, you know. So you don't have to.
I
Answer the
do
same
get
couple things.
asked a lot of the same questions, like the question that everyone seems compelled to ask me. So, Karl, how'd you get interested in Egypt? Or, hey, Karl, why Egypt? Or, hey, Karl, what about this Egypt thing? I think over the last 30 years, I've answered that question. I forget how many times. There are times I'm tempted just to make up some ridiculous stuff that has nothing to do with the truth, just to entertain myself.
I mean, again, and apologies for going with those kind of lines of questions right here off the rip, but you know, it is kind of intriguing to me just because I'm also from the Southeast here, so it's just I was
Where you at?
North Florida, Jacksonville.
Oh, okay. I love Jacksonville. Drive through there all the friggin' time.
Yeah, I mean, I've driven through South Carolina multiple times. I had family in Canada, so I'd come.
No kidding.
Yeah, we'd go back and forth on the long road trip every year. So
Now, I have distant relatives in Canada, going back like 4 generations. Some of them are still alive.
interesting. No, I'm first generation Floridian, so both my parents moved here from different areas, and I was first generation here. Love it. Obviously, I love the Southeast, and I'm not going to complain. Although it's gotten a bad name in the last couple of years, the state has, but it is what it is. I enjoy it.
Well, there's not a single place that one can live on this planet where somebody's not complaining about where they're living.
That's true.
Or the people next to them.
That's true.
That's kind of the way it is everywhere. I bet you in Idaho, there's people in Idaho that have to take up for Idaho and potatoes all the time.
Yeah, well, someone's got to champion it. You know, I'm not going to. They will have to. Speaking of just being, you know, all these other places in the world and in the country and whatnot, you guys have toured extensively throughout the world. What are some of your best like places to perform at?
Well, Tampa, because we like if you're death metal and you play in Tampa, then like every one of your Tampa death metal buddies is going to be at the show. Mm-hmm. So it's like kind of like a big family reunion. You gotta say it twice.
Yeah.
So yeah, Tampa. I like New York, London, Paris, Berlin, Tokyo. Man, Japanese shows are awesome. Mexico City. I love all the South American shows. Man, they're all just crazy nuts metal shows. Like, if there were a model of what a metal show should feel like, pick any city in South America. It's like that.
So when they're asking, you know, artists to come to Brazil, the artists should definitely try to do their best to come to South America and Brazil, because those shows just go off.
Dude, if you don't go to South America, I question your metal credentials.
Interesting.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah. Sorry about that. Got a frog in my throat. Yeah. So what other hobbies do you have outside of just ripping in a fucking death metal band for almost 40 years? What other things pique Karl's interest outside of music in Egypt?
Well, I did martial arts for quite a number of years. Not actively doing that. I had to make a choice because my wrist was always in a brace because my wrist never got a break. Either I was shredding guitar all day, which is, a wrist intensive activity, or I was hitting the heavy bag all day. So my wrist never got a chance to heal. And I had to make a choice. One of these things is a viable career, and the other is a hobby that I love. So lately, I've been playing pickleball with original NILE drummer Peter Moore. He and I are best friends for 40-something years. So we get out on the pickleball court and go for it.
Yeah, that's a big new craze. It's sweeping the nation, pickleball.
It's a fun sport. Anybody can pick it up and have fun with it. Anybody of any age, right? I saw John McEnroe the other day in a video. John McEnroe playing Andre Agassi, right? Two old retired tennis legends going for it on the pickleball court.
It's got to be a little different for them. They're so used to the full size, full speed game that it's got to be pretty easy or interesting for them.
Well, the skill set crosses over. The cardio is a little less, right? The cardio is a little bit more manageable. So it's a fun sport to be active with. I love it. I play with Peter Moore, and I occasionally go to play doubles on the public courts because they have a rotation. So you're always playing with different people. Like each match, you rotate in, and man, what a great game.
Do you have your own paddles and stuff like that?
Oh, you know it. My wife got me a Cannibal Corpse pickleball paddle cover. So when I pull out my paddle, it's a big Cannibal Corpse logo on each side of it. And it feels pretty much fun. So I wear all black. I got black t-shirts, black shorts, black tennis shoes. I'm all in black, and I got a Cannibal Corpse paddle. Yeah.
So the guys at the court know what's up. They have to know that you're ripping in a metal band most of the time, touring the world, and on your spare time, you just come to the court, wiping.
I don't advertise it, but I was recognized really early on by some of the guys. Just by coincidence, happened to be NILE fans, and they were out there playing pickleball, and they're like, "Dude, I had no idea you played pickleball."
I wonder if they knew that you were local to them, and if not, they got online later on. You won't ever believe this, but I went to play pickleball earlier today, and then fucking Karl from NILE's there, and I'm playing him in doubles. It's got to be a highlight for some fans, You can auction that off as a VIP package,
dude, that's brilliant.
Play
yeah. Come hang out with Karl and play pickleball. It's much nicer than, if this were a couple years ago and we were auction off, get in the ring and spar with Karl. Nobody would like that.
What kind of martial arts were you doing?
I did. I got a black belt in Taekwondo, and I went to 4th degree black belt in Sunai Jutsu. Which is a combat form of jiu-jitsu. So, but it's really violence oriented. It's not like jiu-jitsu is often called the gentle sport.
Right.
Sunai Jutsu is not gentle at all.
So how'd you fall into that kind of sport?
Well, it's a crazy story. I started with Taekwondo because my kid, who was 9 years old at the time, got in a fight with one of the neighborhood kids, and he had no idea what to do. He wanted to fight, he wanted to do it, and the other kid wanted to do it, but neither one of them had any clue of what to do. So as a parent watching this stuff, I went, well, maybe we should get this boy some lessons so he can defend himself. So when I went to sign my kid up for Taekwondo, they were running a special. If you sign up your kid, the parents train free. So I went, I've always wanted to do this. Always. always. I would just never, allow myself the time to do it. So I was like, if I'm taking him to his Taekwondo lesson anyway, I'm doing it too. God damn it! And I loved it, man. It was such a gas. So I stuck with it. Even my son went up to blue belt, but I kept going. I was like, having too much fun.
How long were you going? How long was your martial arts career until you kind of pulled it back a little bit?
9 years or so.
Okay. Wow. Did you do any kind of like competitions or shows or anything like that, like exhibits?
Yeah. We did some competitions, and I don't hang my medals on the wall. They're in the closet. I'm not one of those. I want to stick everything in everybody's face all the fucking time. I play guitar, and that's, what I'm known for. So I feel like that's enough.
Yeah.
Right. The other things are just things to stay active.
And when did you decide to kind of give that part of your life up, the training martial arts part? Like, how long ago was that?
When my wrists were in braces and I could barely play, I was like, wait a minute, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What am I doing? I'm so stubborn that I won't give this up, even though, so I had to reality check myself and say, one of these things is a viable career. One of these things is just something that I like doing.
Yeah. So what kind of obsession has taken its place? Because usually if someone gives up something after they've done it for a decade almost, and they've done extensive like competing and whatnot, something else has to kind of like take the role of it.
Ergo, that's why I'm out on the pickleball court, like acting like a lunatic.
As long as you don't get injured on that court, don't hurt your wrist or anything like that. Diving for a save or something.
Well, the crazy thing, and Pete Hamora will laugh all day about this, is one of the first things that you learn in martial arts is how to fall. So I didn't plan it this way, but when I dive for that pickleball, when I have to dig out that return, I can't help it. I can like make the craziest dive and I roll out of it like it's nothing, but I don't even think about it because it's just ingrained from the years of martial arts. When you get your ass knocked to the floor or thrown to the floor or somebody's judo flipping you or whatever the fuck, you got to learn how to fall.
Yeah. It's a good thing to learn though, because then obviously, especially as you get older, a lot of people don't know how to fall, and that's how you really get hurt.
Yeah. I'm also laughing. I was bike riding with my wife last year, and my bike ran into the side of the road where there's this big curve and then a field, right? And I went straight into it, didn't have time to throw on my brakes or anything, and I went sailing over the handlebars head first. Somehow, I don't know how, I rolled, landed, ended up on my feet. I'm like going, I have no idea how I did this. You don't even think about it anymore.
It's kind of like the Willy Wonka when he comes out of the chocolate factory, just stumbles and pops back up.
No problem. It's okay.
Yeah.
You ain't even got to think about it. It's the repetitions of the training. They do all that.
Yeah. Have you always been into sports? Is that kind of like a like an interest of yours, or is it just something that you gained, getting as you got into like the martial arts thing?
Well, when I was in school, I played soccer. By the time it was time to go play football, as in high school, I was already kind of over it though, because I'd started playing guitar. So I was always hanging with the outcast, long-haired stoner kids, not football kids. So yeah, it's one of the things I wished I had done when I had the chance, was play football, because I fucking love it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you keep up with it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sports is, it's a hit or miss with a lot of people, especially in the metal world. they either love it or they never pay any attention to it. So you never know who's a fan or not.
Our drummer George is an amazing soccer player. Amazing dude. The things he can do with a soccer ball is just incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Were you ever think? Did you? And correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't have all my notes right here with me. I know you were in a band prior to NILE. You were in like your first original band, but did you ever try to do any other project outside of NILE during its inception? And like, if so, or if you hadn't, what kind of project would you want to do?
Well, I've got a side project with Napalm, the whole Saurian thing. I've done 3 records with it. It's really quiet music. It's not metal. It's super quiet acoustic instruments, really relaxing vibe. Yeah.
Is that kind of what do you kind of listen to a lot of that stuff outside of like, not like when you're trying to write for NILE or whatnot? Because I always think it's interesting to find out what artists listen to outside of what they create. You know what I mean? And how much of that is, how much like of what they create is actually ingested, and how much of the other stuff is ingested.
I listen to a lot of other stuff besides just metal. I mean, metal is my life. I've given my life to it, and I certainly have a lot of cumulative hours spent in metal listening activities. But I like other stuff too. So, it's not all metal all the time. I like quiet things. I like movie soundtracks, quiet jazz, bossa novas.
It kind of sounds like Shane from Napalm's side project thing that he has. He has like a low key electronic kind of soundscapey project. Maybe a collab in the future. Who knows? Well, Karl, I don't want to keep you too much longer. I know you have something in the next 3 to 4 minutes, and I'd like to at least give you time to get a drink and use the bathroom if need be. So
that's very thoughtful of you. Not everyone is as thoughtful, so I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate your time and chatting with you today. And again, if you've made it this far, The Underworld Awaits Us All is coming out on August 23rd through Napalm. European tour, Japanese tour, Australian tour, and then your North American stint with 6 Feet Under in early 2025 in January. So good luck with all that. Good luck with the album. And thanks for everything you've given us in the last, almost 4 decades, Karl.
Thank you, sir. I had a great time today.
Good. I had a good one too, man. See you soon.
All right. Cheers.